Alright everyone, so today we're going to be talking about how to break down a chicken. By the way, if you want to see these videos 2 weeks earlier, consider subscribing to my Patreon, where you not only get all these videos, but also recipe cards, specific deity profiles, and lots of other interesting things to look at. Video tiers start at $10 a month, so definitely consider checking it out. But first things first, let's go over why you would even want to break down a chicken, right? So obviously you could go to the store and you could get, your chicken breasts, your chicken thighs, bone in, bone out, all that stuff, all you want already. But sometimes it is a little bit more economical to get the whole chicken if you have a slew of meals prepped for that week that uses them. This is where meal prepping for the week is really helpful, because if you know that you're going to be making something that requires that bone-in, skin-on chicken, like with the thighs, as well as maybe something that's a little bit lighter with some boneless, skinless chicken breast, and then also have some vegetables left over for soup with all those organs and roasted bones and everything's. Yeah, a whole chicken, it makes a whole week of meals. However, for the most part, even if it is a little cheaper to get the whole chicken, it's a lot of work, right? So if I look at just the timestamp on the video, the raw video of me cutting this chicken, it's a half an hour long. So if you have the extra half an hour to break that chicken down, as well as some really good tools like a really sharp knife and some strong bone shears, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it won't even take you a half an hour. For me, what I had was some regular kitchen shears and a knife that hasn't been sharpened in a very long time. But we still made it happen. So with all that said, let me show you how to break down a chicken. Or at least how I break down a chicken with my very common household chicken deboning tools.
Alright, let's get started with a 7-pound chicken. And you know what? For 7 pounds, that is not a bad price at all. Look at that. It's going to make us a lot of meals, so let's get started into breaking it down, which starts with opening it up and washing it off. All I have are these normal kitchen shears, as I was saying earlier, so I'm going to use those to just cut this bag open and get everything out. You're going to want to remove this pack of gizzards. This is organ meat, and it's going to be fantastic in any kind of soups or anything that requires a lot of nutrition. So put that in a bag and reserve that bag for all the bones you're inevitably going to get out of this chicken. Now, I like to rinse my chicken off a little bit just because it's been sitting in its own juice for a while. But once you're here, we're starting with the spine. Again, normal shears, not bone shears. That means that this was a little harder than I had anticipated, but not impossible. But anyway, you don't want to do this with a knife because that's how you're going to dull your knife down really fast, and also obviously you can't kind of work your knife in and out of the chicken carcass itself. Shears are going to be the best thing to crack through all of that bone and get the spine out of here. And as you may have guessed, we are handling a dead animal, so it is going to be a little ucky-gucky. This is where the test of whether or not you are a meat eater really shines through, because it looks like a chicken, it feels like a chicken, and oh boy, is it a little bit gory to completely disassemble a chicken. But nonetheless, there we go, our spine is out, and we can put that in the bone bag for all of our future soups. Now that that spine is out of the way, we can also get some of these other little innards out that are not going to be tasty to eat. We can just throw those away. And then everything is nice and wide open for us to turn it over and break that breastbone. You basically just give CPR to your chicken a little bit and it pops open. Now those wingtips that always burn when you roast a chicken, we're going to cut those off, and since those are mostly just skin and bone, we're going to save them for soup. Next comes messing with these wings, which frankly I was a little confused about, because did you know that there's actually 2 parts here in the wing? It's really easy to get confused about which part you're actually supposed to be trying to cut and work with. One of them, no matter what you do, will not come off. The other one will, and it's important to know which is which. However, I had to put that down because I could not figure it out for the second, so we're moving on to the legs. This is where you're going to get your thigh and also your drumstick. So what you have to do first is cut through all of this skin and connective tissue, and eventually you're going to be able to kind of just pop it right off. At this part, thankfully, there's not really any kind of bone like super in the way, so it's easy to either just pull it off or cut it off. And then what you're left with is the thigh and the drumstick separated. You could leave it like that, but if you want to go a step further, then you gotta look at where the drumstick and the thigh actually join, because that's where we're gonna start cutting it. Cutting along the joints gives you some really distinct pieces that are gonna be a lot easier to work with than if you tried to cut straight through bone and make a whole mess like that. But there is still some bone work, so you gotta take that knife and cut around that joint. And by getting rid of all that skin and all that meat in the way, you're gonna be able to much easier break it apart. Again, ucky-gucky, very gory to pop a whole bone out of something's socket like this. But if I'm being totally honest, there's something a little satisfying about it too. which maybe defines the meat lovers from the not meat lovers. But I think that there's something just kind of instinctually satisfying about breaking up some meat with your bare hands. Nonetheless, that breaks up our drumstick and our thigh, and now I'm just cutting off all the extra skin because you don't really want a mouthful of extra skin, to be honest. But alright, let's figure out these wings. And these are the other side of the wings you get when you get, like, I don't know, buffalo wings or something. The ones with those two bones in the middle, that's what this is. So we're going to hold it up by the wing and then cut around it, turning the chicken, not the knife. And then we're going to look for where that joint is, and you can see it here. See where this is the part that kind of turns and comes off? That's actually where you want to cut, not the place I was cutting earlier that was way too close to the breast. Once you start cutting at that actual joint point, see how you can see a disconnect? It just comes right off. So easy, so clean. And now we are ready to start working on this heinous mess that is the breast. It looks spooky, it looks scary, but trust me, we're gonna figure it out. And see these rib bones? They are sharp, and they hurt, so we're gonna get rid of them. This starts by cutting down along the breastbone and kind of chopping these two in half. You may need to pick up those shears again and get back in there because around here is going to be where the wishbone is, and the wishbone is not something you want to take a knife to. It's a lot easier to either just crack that or pull it out or use some kitchen shears to, break through it. That's what I did here, and it worked pretty well, so I could just take those two apart. So now we have to get all of those bones off, and it looks like I'm losing a lot of meat here, and that's because I probably am. However, don't worry, you still get some massive chicken breast to work with later. However, do be mindful and try to cut as close to that bone as possible. Once all that bone is taken off, honestly, if you wanted to, you could try to get more meat off of that little bit that you cut away, but that's up to you. Personally, when I did that, I only got like a couple extra morsels out of it. It wasn't like super worth it, but I did have 2 clean breasts, and that's what matters. And this is what I'm talking about. Lots of meat still on this. That's okay, because this is going in the bone bag, which means when I make chicken soup with it, it's still going to have all kinds of delicious meat that can go into it too, which means I have to use less extra breast to put into the chicken later, because all that's going to fall right off the bone. And again, we still have a lot of meat right here. So much, in fact, that I'm actually going to cut these in half. Because there's no way in hell I'm cooking all of these as one giant lump. But again, take off the extra skin, put that in your bone bag, and now you can see the final product. And do whatever you want with it.
I can tell you right now that what I use this chicken for, right, is I used the legs, wings, and the drums to make kind of like basically a very fancy butter noodle, right, where I kind of fried up the chicken with the bone and the skin and everything. I roasted it a little bit in the oven to finish it, and then I tore it up and threw it into some egg noodles with like lemon juice, white wine, fresh thyme, to make it more of a slightly Greek-inspired twist, right? And then I also had like a couple extra chicken breasts from a previous package that I bought that weren't really enough to me to justify making a meal out of it. So I just took the breast, I cut them into smaller pieces, and I put them into the bag with the rest. Let me talk about skin and bone for a second. Have you ever gone to, say, Whole Foods or any other kind of health food store, and have you ever gone to the supplements aisle and noticed that they're selling buckets of collagen? Buckets that go for like $40 and really only last you like maybe 8 smoothies? What they're selling you is collagen powder, and collagen is the thing that gives you really healthy skin, hair, and nails, right? Without collagen, you end up, getting more lines a lot faster. You end up with brittle hair, brittle nails, skin that kind of doesn't do very hot, right? Like, it's an important building block, a really important protein that your body needs in order to keep the biggest organ on your body functioning. And all of that exists in the skin and the bones and the, little muscly cartilagey bits. All of those bits, like the ones you can't eat, like cartilage, and the ones that are not really like the main source of the meal, like the skin, those have so many nutrients in them, and that's why you want to use them when you're cooking things. Remember, like coq au vin, that requires skin on, bone in chicken because it simmers in the sauce. And when you simmer that in the sauce, all of that leaches right into that beautiful gravy that you're going to be eating. There's a reason that animal products are good for your body. But that doesn't mean every meal you make has to have all that stuff in it. None of the skin and bone is necessary for every single time. But when you do have it, it is really, really good and a super nutritious boost to your meals. So that might be another reason why you would invest in, making your own stock, not from the chicken bouillon, which you can do, but from the whole bones that you get from that chicken that you just broke down, right? And even if you're not perfect at it, like some of these really nice professional videos where they have the sharp knife and the bone shears and all that, you can still get that chicken down into pieces, and you can still get a really good bang for your buck, even if, it's not the prettiest thing by the end, okay? Again, is breaking down chicken the most practical thing to do all the time? Not really, to be honest, right? You could just, if you have it in your budget, get away with buying a little bit of breast here, a little bit of thigh there, wings and drumsticks if you want them. You could do that. Especially because you only get 2 drumsticks and 2 wings per chicken, right? But if you do have the option somehow to get a whole chicken, you can use it for so many different things that you're definitely going to want to jump on that chance. I also do still have some bags of vegetables prepped, so all of the, other things that I'm taking out, like the spine, the organs, and any other bones that, still have a bunch of meat and cartilage on them, those are going into some homemade chicken soup stock. It was delicious, it was very filling, and I still had a lot of the actual chicken left over. So with all that said, I hope this is a helpful video, and I will see you guys next time for a little bit of kitchen magic. See ya!